Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. Lily, hi.
Hello.
Davy, good to see you.
Hey, Al.
Hey, Erica.
Hi, Al.
And Camara, hi. We're going to talk about a poem by Eve Ewing. It's called I Saw Emmett Till This Week at the Grocery Store. Camara, I wonder if you would read it for us.
Of course. I saw Emmett Till this week at the grocery store, looking over the plums one by one, lifting each to his eyes and turning it slowly, a little earth, checking the smooth skin for pockmarks and rot or signs of unkind days or people, then sliding them gently into the plastic. Whistling softly, reaching with a slim woolen arm into the cart, he first balanced them over the wire before realizing the danger of bruising and lifting them back out, cradling them in the crook of his elbow until something harder could take that bottom space. I knew him from his hat, one of those fine pork pie numbers that they used to sell on Roosevelt Road. It had lost its feather, but he had carefully folded a dollar bill and slid it between the ribbon and the felt, and it stood at attention. He wore his money. Upright and strong, he was all ready to the checkout by the time I caught up with him. I called out his name, and he spun like a dancer, candy bar in hand, looked at me quizzically for a moment before remembering my face. He smiled. Well, hello, young lady. Hello. So chilly today. Should have worn my warm coat like you. Yes, so cool for August in Chicago. How are things going for you? Oh. He sighed and put the candy on the belt. It goes. It goes.
Thank you so much. Well, there are two important references here that we should start with. Davy, tell us a little bit about the Ginsberg in the context here.
So the Ginsberg is in dialogue here as a poem in which the first person speaker of that poem sees Walt Whitman and sees a number of other folks shopping in a supermarket in the East Bay in California.
Why don't we go to Emmett Till? Emmett Till of Chicago is visiting relatives in Money, Mississippi. He's in a store and he is perceived by an adult white woman as having been sassy with her, and then he is murdered. Mamie made sure that the whole world got to see what his body was like. Camara, any thoughts about the Emmett Till that we see here?
The title of the poem, right, is bringing us into, a present moment. Of course, Emmett Till was murdered in 1955, so this is seemingly a sort of like imagined interaction with him.
The sense that I get is that he is perhaps the age he would be in the present. So this is August 2020, he'd be 79. And the reason that I get that sense is that we get the language in Till's voice, hello, young lady. That's a really important difference between Whitman in a supermarket in California and Emmett Till in this poem.
Yes. No, you're totally right. I really like the way the elder Emmett Till has put a little dollar bill in his hat. Erica, what's your thought about the way Emmett Till appears in this?
This is a poem that depicts what could have been an ordinary day in Emmett Till's life had he not been horribly murdered when he was 14. He's doing things that one might do as a grown-up. I love the attention to the details of the hat, and it's also just sad.
Yeah, it's still the pork pie hat. So this is an alternative history. Lily, what do you make of the interaction with the young lady?
What is very devastating about this poem is that it's a relatively mundane day-to-day moment and interaction, but at the end of the day, this version of Emmett Till got to grow up and just do a regular thing. So to me, that interaction between them is like cordial, neighborly, friendly way that strangers would interact that he was violently robbed of being able to do as an adult.
Camara, I want to turn to you. I keep thinking about the evidence gathered as to what the conversation in the store in Money, Mississippi was. This may be exactly the sort of thing that he said before he was murdered.
Yeah, I think the poem, while you're reading it, you can't help but not think about, him in that different store. I think the heartbreak is about that this wasn't possible. And for me, the beginning with looking over the plums, it's the speaker's trying to keep us here. And that is what's really hard for me.
Thank you. That makes me want to turn our attention to the opening and back to Ginsberg's Whitman. I wonder if all of us could just add a thought.
To me, I saw Emmett Till or I saw Walt Whitman means I imagined that I was able to interact with that real person. But to me, it also means like this 70-year-old man could have been Emmett Till.
Yeah, thank you. Nice start to this. Okay, Davy, you next.
I really think about this as a Chicago poem. And if we take that frame, and it's a different thought experiment to think about what if someone who was robbed of his life by racist violence continued to share my city with me. And I think the fact that Eve Ewing and Emmett Till are both people from and importantly grounded in Chicago matters to this poem. That it's not incidental that it's a Chicago poem.
I want to follow that up. Camara, you're a Chicago person too. Your thought about the Chicago-ness of this story?
I'm still thinking about what Lily said about painful, how this is like a painful projection. Emmett Till's funeral happening, in Chicago, and Mamie Till deciding to show and spread around the picture of Emmett's face. I think also it speaks to the local sort of violence being dispersed nationally. And I think also the murders of Black people by police, where the local also gets dispersed nationally. And I'm thinking about the specificness of the Midwest here and how that is super important, not only thinking about Eve Ewing as the poet and Emmett Till and this violence, but also in the violence we're seeing today.
I really appreciate everything that you said, but one of the points you made is especially powerful, which is the dispersal that you're talking about, this dispersal of image and story. Maybe Till insisted on that dispersal.
Yeah, and the fact that like no one has ever been charged, for the murders of Emmett Till also feels resonant with the violence and the lack of accountability and justice we see today.
Thank you. What I want to do is turn back to the plums at the beginning and then the candy at the end. Lily?
Well, what I imagined this to be was that like he went to the supermarket for the fruit and the candy was like a last minute treat for myself. Like the plums were really what I came in for.
Yeah.
And like I said before, all these very details I'm calling them small because they feel small. Like the more details that are included and the more you focus on them, like the heavier and sadder it feels.
Yes. Thank you. Erica, take it from there, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all building up to this portrait of, a life that was lost.
Yeah.
You kind of witness how he is going to address a person talking to him, and the way that he does that is graceful.
Camara, I invite you to say anything you want about that, and then we'll go quickly around for final thoughts as well.
Yeah, it goes signals to me a sort of continuing, the goings on keep goings on. It also feels sort of like a refrain that what is going on is not just, the everyday it goes, but also anti-Blackness, the conditions that led to his murder. One possibility is also that Emmett Till also appeared to this speaker as like someone who showed up as an ancestor.
Oh, I think that's such a great point. So it's not like some sci-fi thing, but more like Emmett Till is in every store that I go to. Lily, Davy, Erica, quick thoughts about the it goes, about the ending?
This seems like something you would say to a friend. I'm not going to give a full answer, but yeah, it's going. That's a kind of a daily intimacy, like a glancing intimacy. Maybe they see each other kind of frequently, which is really beautiful.
Davy, work that out a little bit, will you?
In the final lines of the poem, I'm not sure who the speaker is. And I think that uncertainty for me is a real shift in register, in that I feel pretty sure about what's happening everywhere else in this poem, and I feel really unsure at the end. And I think that shift, what feels to me like a shift in tone, is important, in that part of what's going is the disappearance of this moment, this gentleness of this figure and of this interaction. I think that's part of what's disappearing in the phrase "it goes."
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna do final thoughts. So we'll start with Lily. Final thought. One last thing.
I guess one final thought is we're definitely asked to think about this poem with specific context about Emmett Till, but I also like thinking of it as a prescriptive idea for how to go out and look at people in your neighborhood.
Davy, final thought.
Something else that occurs to me, we really don't have a parallel with the moment of where are we going, Walt Whitman, the doors close in an hour. And that doesn't happen here. This poem really ends at the checkout counter.
I think I'm going to offer my final thought now, which is this powerful thing at the beginning. We see Emmett Till checking the smooth skin of the plums for pock marks. If we look closely at the world that is a perfect plum and find its imperfections, we can feel signs or interpret signs of unkind days. And then this beautiful gesture, which is he doesn't seem to reject the imperfect plums. He slides them gently into a bag. You can find a sign of unkind people in the fruit that's bruised and pockmarked, if you're willing to look closely enough.
I want to draw our attention to her decision to not capitalize the beginnings of sentences, with the exception of the word I or proper nouns. I feel like that adds another level to a lot of what we've been saying about the poem.
For my final thought, I was thinking about last year I got to go to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and when I was there was an hour-long line to see Emmett Till's casket, and I was thinking about how that type of like presentation of the history was really concrete. And I think that this poem also brings me to my body and to the body of Emmett Till feeling these plums in a painful way, and how this also feels like a holding of him and a holding of a potential memory and alternative history of him.
Thank you, Camara. Thank you, Lily, Davy, Erica, and Camara once again. Thank you all.